So, so I made it to Van. Amazingly, it's an amazingly blue sky day, and I'm climbing up to Van Castle, and I looks like I'm the first person to climb up here today, because as you see now, there's not many footprints. There's no fresh footprints. I'm causing the only fresh footprints around. And so this fort was built around, well, people have lived here since 5000 BCE, but it's of most interest to finding Manuland because we're in search of a stables with an inscription to and by Menua, who was the son of the founder of the Urartu Empire. Some of us may remember from the Bible that Mount Ararat is where Noah's Ark allegedly came to rest, or rather the Ararat Mountains, and Van, this kingdom, Biennale as they called themselves, which would later become Armenia, and the capital of Armenia is the center of what became the Ararat Empire. Manuland were interested in the truth and the complexity of history and our ever evolving mental models of time. So our mental model of time begins really around 4100 BCE. So the Urartu Empire was 3200 years after that. It was at its height, and I am certainly, as you see, this lake, this majestic lake that I once saw from an aeroplane, the twinkling lights around it, and the blue sky. I first saw this fort last night in a massive snowstorm, actually, and I couldn't work it out because you could just see the lights up on what looked like a cliff, and so I thought it was mountains, but actually it's a promontory leading out, and as you can see on both sides, it's quite low. And so we're particularly interested in this place from a Finding Manuland perspective because the son of the first emperor was called Menua, and here we'll find an inscription to Menua, so we're going to look for that. And that MN sound in Menua's name then went into Armenia, into the MN in Armenia. I've spoken about that before. And in 1856, Russia lost the First Crimean War, and it ceded what was then Armenia to what was then the Sublime Porte, which became the Ottoman Empire, which became the modern state of Turkey. And the old city up here was occupied by the Russians in the First World War and destroyed by the Russians. So wherever we go, we find the destruction by the Russians. And this is why, as a result of the Second Crimean War, which is currently ongoing, we must do everything we can to ensure that this kind of destructiveness by this country, by this state, never comes to pass again. So we're going to look at the old city. We're going to look for Menua's inscription and the MN sound in a non-mythological founder of an Indo-European linguistic and cultural tradition, Menua, because Menua was a historical figure. I've seen his inscriptions in Yerevan. I've written before about them in the Menua episode, which I'll link to underneath this. And in the Indo-European traditions, we have many of the mythological founders, Manu in India, of course, and Manus, subject of that 6-part series that I made earlier this year. And we have Manawydan in Wales, a mythological founder, Manannan, who probably was a historical figure, but he was the preeminent pre-Christian deity in Ireland, part of the Celtic Indo-European tradition. But Menua was an historical figure, the son of the first emperor of Urartu. It went from being a kingdom to an empire, ruling most of Anatolia. And this area of Anatolia, modern Turkey, and Van Lake is in fact the meeting point of many great empires. It's part of the North Mesopotamia, the interaction zone between Babylon, Akkadian, which is down in Iraq, but we're in northern Mesopotamia, around where writing first emerged in the cuneiform text, and we're going to see some inscriptions in cuneiform. And we also, so we had the Kura Araxes culture, which was founded in modern Armenia and lasted from about 3,500 BCE to around, to around 2000 BCE. Then at that same time, Assyria is at its height, Babylon is at its height. They're coming into this area and leaving the remnants of their writing, and Kanesh, where the first Indo-European writing was found, which I've talked about before and which I visited before. And then we have the Great Hittite Empire. It rules this area from about 1600 BCE to about 1200 BCE. Then we have Urartu at its height, 800 to 500 BCE. Then we have the Achaemenid Empire, Darius the Great, who we'll talk about again, very important in Iran. Today protests are going on in Iran. We'll see if the mullahs leave, then I can visit there, God willing. And so then the Achaemenid Empire dissolves when Darius's descendants die, and Alexander, the so-called Great, takes over. And then Armenia, the great Armenian Empire, which was at its height in terms of land, controlling most of Anatolia, all the way to the Levant, around 50 BCE. And now the modern state of Armenia is on 29,000 square kilometers, again having been betrayed by the Russians. And then now we have the Ottoman Empire, and the Kurds are here, Indo-Europeans as well, in this area. So what we have here is an amazing interaction zone, and Lake Van, and just absolutely stunning place. So I'm going to leave it at that for the moment, and we're going to look for Menua's stay.